Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of the Black of the Berry. We're gonna go ahead and jump right in. Last week we were talking about Mansa Musa, and I think you guys will be excited to hear that Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are going to be bringing the story of Mansa Musa to screens near you. So get excited. Now, before there was Mansa Musa, there was a crippled boy who many people believe would never anything. That boy was born to the founder of one of the greatest empires that Africa has ever known. And again, I want you to follow along with me as we talk about Sundiata Keita. Keita simply meaning about the foundation that was laid, because before Mansa Musa came on the scene, there was Sundiata Keita. He was appropriately called the Lion King. He was the most famous historical figure associated with the name of the Kietas. Oral histories from griots, which is traditional West African storytellers, describe him as a physically distal child who overcame some to unite fractured kingdoms of the region. After winning the decisive battle of in 1205, he established the Mali Empire and is credited with creating the Mandan Charter. The Mandan Charter is one of the earliest known declarations of human rights. It was, you can say that it's the oldest in the and it shapes modern day human rights. Even so, again, we're talking about Sundiata of the Keita clan. He established the empire's territorial base, and he laid the groundwork for its future prosperity and unity. Around 1235, he decisively defeated Sumanguru, the ruler of Kayaga, in the battle arena. Now, by 1240, Sundiata had seized Kumbai, the former capital of Ghana, erasing the last of Ghana's imperial past. After 1240, Sundiata focused on consolidating his control over existing states, while his generals expanded the empire's boundaries to include important trade centers and gold fields. Moved the empire's seat to Niani, which became a commercial center due to the gold trade and the peace under his rule. Niani is what is known as modern day Mali. Although soon maintained support among the non-Muslim functions. Conflicts over succession after his death. Now, again, he died in 1255. He was a West African monarch, and he was the founder of the Mali Empire. We already established that. He belonged to the Keita clan, the Malinke people who lived near the present Mali-Guinea border. Again, around 1235, he defeated the Sumanguru in the Battle of Karina. That was near Kulikoro, Mali. Sundiata moved the seat of his empire from Jariba to Niani, again, that's Mali, near the Niger and the Sankarini rivers. He consolidated his control over, we already said that, empire as far as the southern Sahara, the Niger River, gold fields of Wangara, and the Senegal River. Let's see. We already said that he belonged to the Keita clan, and again, this is getting a little repetitive. So let's switch over. I do want to show you really quickly a map area in which he reigned. Let me show the screen here. Share screen. Here we go. The actual region that he was over. You guys can see this. Let's X off that. So let's go back. The actual region that he ruled over, again, he laid the groundwork and laid the, and it's covered up a little bit. Let me see if I can. Okay, so we have Mali over here, Western Africa, and Europe is just to the north of here. So the region, there was much notoriety that he brought to the area. Again, we established already, the commerce, the center of commerce, the education, everything that was going on within the region at the time, right? So one thing important that we have to talk about when looking at legacies and kingdoms, again, he laid the way, or he paved the way for Mansa Musa to come on the scene. And if we can liken that to today's terms, and I don't want to get too far off track, it's almost as if we can imagine Thurgood Marshall as being the Supreme Court justice that he was, and all the good things that he did regarding African Americans and his contribution on the High Court. His successor was Clarence Thomas. Needless to say, Clarence Thomas is not Thurgood Marshall. So again, this should have been a continuation from the legacy of what was being established by Thurgood Marshall. However, that did not happen because we do have someone on the court that is very biased and corrupt, if you will. But that's another podcast or another episode for another time. Again, I still want us to look at exactly, let me stop sharing my screen. I do want us to look at the kings, the lineage from which we have descended, because again, last week as we were talking about Mansa Musa, I wanted to see who he descended from. Now, Sundiata Keita he's the grandfather. It's spoken that he's either the grandfather or the grand uncle of Mansa Musa. But again, even with disability, he paved the way for Mansa Musa to become who he became and to do the things that he did. So again, let's go back here. Here we go. And you guys can read right along with me. This is the Encyclopedia Britannica, because I miss the Encyclopedia Britannica. That was something I used to read from when I was a kid. So here we go. I just start reading here. You guys can read along with me. So again, Sundiata Keita is a West African monarchy, founded the Western Sudanese Empire of Mali, established the territories of the empire and laid its future prosperity and political unity. Sundiata belonged to the Keita clan of the Malinke people from the small kingdom of Kanjaba near the present Mali-Guinea border. Little is known about his early life. Malinke oral traditions indicate that he was one of 12 royal brothers who were heirs to the throne of Kanjaba. Sumanguru, ruler of the neighboring state of Kaniyaga, overran Kanjaba's brothers. So he murdered 11 of his brothers. According to traditions, Sundiata was spared because he was a sickly boy who already appeared to be near death. It's amazing that God always has one that he spares, and that one that's spared is always the one that has great purpose. I believe that Sundiata once a Dugu Tigi, or headman of one of the villages of Kanjaba. He organized a private army and consolidated his position among his own people before challenging the power of Sumanguru and the neighboring Susu people. He defeated Sumanguru decisively in the Battle of Karina near model Koulikoro, Mali, about 1235, and succeeded in forcing the former tributary states of Kaniyaga to recognize his suzerainty, or I don't even know what that is, suzerainty. So let's stop really quick, because I never like saying a word that I don't know what it is. So let's just go right on over to Merriam-Webster, and we're going to look that word up. We say suzerainty. Here we go. Learn together. I hope you get excited about being on this journey. Again, I'm not trying to be the expert on all things Black history, but I'm doing my part, and I hope that you guys will watch the podcast. I hope that you will engage, because again, the way that I get on is if you're learning from this, if you're enjoying this discussion, I really want you again, follow along with me and let's help get me out there so that we can continue to bring this topic to other people. Let's see. The dominion of a overlordship. So, to recognize this lordship. In 1240, Sundiata seized and razed Kumbai, the former capital of the Sudanese Empire of Ghana, and by this act succeeded in obliterating the last symbol of Ghana's past imperial glory. After 1240, Sundiata apparently led no further conquests, but consolidated his hold on the states already under his control. His generals however, continued to extend the boundaries of his empire to include areas as far north as the southern fringes of the Sahara, including the important trade center of Walata, east to the Great Bend of the Niger River, south to the gold fields of Wanjara. The exact location is still unknown to scholars, and west to the Senegal River. So this was a massive region here. Soon after 1240, Sundiata moved the seat of his empire from Jariba to Niani. I think we already said that, near the confluence or the coming together of the Niger and the Sankarani rivers. The lure of profits from the gold trade, made possible by Mali's acquisition of Wangara and the tranquility that prevailed under Sundiata's leadership, attracted merchants and traders, and Niani soon became a key commercial center in the Sudan. Although Sundiata was nominally a Muslim and therefore acceptable to the predominantly Muslim merchant class, he managed to retain his support among the non-Muslim population. He did so by fulfilling many of the traditional religious functions expected of rulers in the West African societies, whose political leaders were viewed as religious figures with quasi-divine powers. Little is known about the actual administration of Mali during Sundiata's time. The imperial system he established, however, survived the years of internecine conflicts over the succession after his death. Okay, I love seeing these big words, so let's go and find out what internecine. We learn together. See what this word means. Okay, my system is moving just a little slow here today. But again, I'm loving this, just finding out all this information. And as I learn this, like I just want to share it. Okay, so internecine means of, relating to, or involving conflict within a group, mutually destructive. Okay, so let's see. Okay, inner struggle, inner conflict over succession after his death. And again, just talking about Mali, because it's important to know exactly what Mali was and its prominence and the significance at the time. Because this, as being the Sundiata reminds me, if I liken it to any story from the Bible, the story of Mephibosheth, where he was injured in the Bible and he was spared. I'm not going to try to tell the whole story because honestly I got to reread it to understand it. But if you know anything about Mephibosheth, he was dropped as a child. When his parents were fleeing with him, there was, I forgot exactly what happened. But again, there was later David came back to find him, because God never leaves anything or anybody out. So again, as I was saying, that Sundiata Keita comes along, and the descendant becoming Mansa Musa, he was laying the groundwork. So again, God always starts a thing and finishes it. One may begin it. There was, for every Moses, there's a Joshua, if you understand what I mean. Moses was leading the people to the promised land. However, he was not able to deliver them over into or get them into the promised land. However, Joshua was able to do that. So throughout time, there have always been predecessors and successors. There have always been legacy. There's always been kingdoms. There's always been dynasties. There's always been an established rule, and the energy of our ancestors remains present with us even up until this day. And in order to understand where we're going, we have to look back to that history, which is why, again, I'm so excited about this journey, and I'm excited that you're on this journey with me. And again, I want you to help me. If you're learning anything about Black history in this discussion, again, like, comment, watch, share, subscribe. I need you. I need you to help get me out there. So I am not contending. I am asking for your help in getting me out there. And again, Mali, as we talk about Mali, you guys will still share my screen so you can see everything that I'm saying. Actually, I hope you can see that. Let's see. Yeah, I think you can. Let's make this a little bigger. Actually, let's make it a little smaller. All right. Apparently I made it a little too big. All right, here we go. Let's talk about Mali, the historical empire, Africa, which again, last week we talked about the name of Al-Kelbian, and there are books that I've been looking to find, or looking to purchase, rather, a couple that I've come across on Amazon talking about Al-Kelbian. I want to talk about the history of Africa moving forward, but again, we're talking about Sundiata Keita and him being the predecessor of Mansa Musa. So again, and this is over the region of Mali. Now we understand that at the time, modern day Mali is 23 million inhabitants, the 8th largest country on the continent of Africa, and the 23rd largest country in the world. So again, there's still prominence and still significance and importance to the city. Now again, at the time, Mansa Musa brought Mali to its apex of power. But again, the predecessor, Sundiata Keita, put him on. He laid the foundation. So again, Mali is a trading empire that flourished in Western Africa from the 13th to the 16th century. The Mali Empire developed from the state of Kanjaba on the upper Niger River, east of the Futai Jalon, and is said to have been founded before 1000 CE, or the Common Era. The Malinke inhabitants of Kanjaba acted as middlemen in the gold trade during the later period of ancient Ghana. Their dislike of the Susu chief, not Susu chef, Susu chief, Sumanguru's harsh but ineffective rule provoked the Malinke to revolt, and in 1230, Sundiata, the brother of Kanjaba's fugitive ruler, won a decisive victory against the Susu chief. The name Mali absorbed the name Kanjaba at about the same time, and in extending Mali's rule beyond Kanjaba's narrow confines, Sundiata set a precedent for successive emperors. He set a precedent. The disabled boy set a precedent for successive emperors. Imperial armies secured the gold-bearing lands of Bandu and Bambouk to the south, subdued the Diara in the northwest, and pushed along the Niger as far north as Lakdebo. Under Mansa Musa, who came along in 1307 to 1332, again, refer back to episode 5, watch that podcast, because we talked about Mansa Musa exclusively. Now, under Mansa Musa, Mali rose to the apex of his power. He controlled the lands of the Middle Niger, absorbed into his empire the trading cities of Timbuktu and Gao, and imposed his rule on such South Saharan cities as Walata and on the Tengaza region of salt deposits of the north. He extended the eastern boundaries of his empire as far as the Hausa people, and to the west he invaded Takur and the lands of the Fulani and Tukulo people. In Morocco, Egypt, and elsewhere, he sent ambassadors and imperial agents, and on his return from a pilgrimage to Mecca, he established Egyptian scholars in both Timbuktu and Gao. And again, we know that Mali was an educational center. There were scholars that were established there from Egypt under Mansa Musa. So again, it's been said he's either the grandnephew or the grandson of Sundiata Keita. And again, we know that Sundiata Keita simply means, or Keita means heir apparent, or the inherited one. So again, you know, the culture, the history, it's exciting for me to go back on this journey to look to the encyclopedias, to look to Wikipedia, to look to the other various forms of books or what have you that we have that can bring us this history. Because again, I was never privy to this information before growing up in school. You know, I was never able to learn about these great kings. And again, we're going to be talking about the queens as well. I was never able to learn about any of the predecessors that, in terms of the ancestors, because all I was ever taught was the narrative that I saw of Africa was how impoverished the continent was. You know, it was always the little kids that we saw on TV with their, you know, the protruded bellies and the flies all over them, and it was just the famine in the land. I was never told about this vision of Africa that existed then and that's even still in existence today. Africa is a flourishing continent. There are countries. Africa, again, is made up of many countries, and the country flourishes. What we have seen of the continent is not the truth of the existence of this important continent. All life began there. Again, Alkebulan, that's the name, the mother of all mankind, the Garden of Eden. We come from a place where all life originated there. The architects, the engineers, the scientists, there's so much intellect that came forth out of Africa, out of our ancestors. And I can't help but to think, because energy never dies. The energy of the ancestors is still present with us. And there's, on a spiritual plane, there's a lot that is occurring and a lot that is going on. And if you're listening to spirit, you can hear. And now, again, let me make sure that what I just said, I trust God, I believe God, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but at the same time, when Scripture talks about us being surrounded by that great cloud of witnesses, that includes the ancestors who went on before us, right? So that's the people like the Sundiata, Keita, the Mansa Musas, the Harriet Tubmans, and the Indian war chiefs, Shaka Zulu, people like that. So again, we have descended directly from lineage of some strong warriors, and that energy never dies. And the purpose that they were sent here for, if it was not realized or fulfilled during their time, again, that is legacy. That legacy is passed down and is still, up until this day, is seeking those that will hearken to the voice of the ancestors and continue the work. And I want to be a part of that. And even if my part is just to incite the education or to bring forth the knowledge of what it was they did and just how we arrived at this place, like how did we get here? This is how we got here. And I'm excited about it. So again, if you're learning from this discussion, I want you to, and I just happened to notice that I never did change the well, let's do it now. I can't believe I did this. I forgot it because I have two podcasts. I never did change the logo. But at any rate, this is the Black and the Berry. But again, I'm excited because I do want to just absorb all of the knowledge that I can about Black history, and I want to be able to share that. I want you to help get this podcast out there. I want you to share about Black history as I share. Even if I'm just reading from an encyclopedia, it doesn't matter to me because my intention is to bring you the information. Right now, if the ancestors intend for the information to be distributed, somebody else did the work for me. That's what the predecessors do. They leave breadcrumbs for us. It's up to us to follow the trail. It's up to us to complete the work or to pick up the mantle and carry it. And if I am that person, I choose to accept and move forward. Again, I may start small, but I won't stay small. Again, I hope that you got something out of this. And if you did, again, please share it, watch it, connect, engage. And again, remember, the blacker the berry, the deeper the truth. I'll see you next week.